is part B. This is the television channel. So-called British newspapers. The only mention that can be made without mocking them is the heading on the front page of the Daily Star, a tabloid newspaper, that is reporting on an election candidate called Binface. It's a byline to Tom Hutchinson. I'll read that again. Byline to Tom Hutchison, trainee political editor. Count Binface today unveils his 24-point plan to save Britain. And we at the Daily Star believe it to be the most sane and honest manifesto out there. The Daily I newspaper has got the front page of the nasty, racist fraudster Nigel Farage admitting it's impossible to know if Reform Party would keep low tax pledge. And the Daily Mail splashes on page 1 with this heading, Sunk Sunak, Kia only wants votes at 16 to entrench his power. Now this is ridiculous. How is it being in power is, of course, synonymous with everything that can be done by the incumbent to entrench whatever power they have. And the rest of the heading is similarly stupid. And on page 2 of the Daily Mail, it says 100,000 patients are told they have cancer at accident and emergency at hospitals amid waiting list crisis. And a detailed piece promoting Sunk Sunak is spread on pages 6 and 7 of the Daily Mail, saying, it's aspirational people like my parents who will be hit by Starmer's plan to tax private school fees. It's an exclusive interview bylined to Jason Groves, political editor. Now, It's aspirational people like my parents who will be hit by Starmer's plan to tax private school fees. Another absolute rubbish. And on pages 8 and 9 has got three pieces. One is Reform's Manifesto is fantasy economics. And it says critics attack Nigel Farage's party's plan to cut taxes and spend more. And the election sketch by Quentin Letts. The piece is headed, one of Martha's achievements was discovering Viagra. Mr. Farage entered the hall as if someone had slipped a little blue peel into his egg and crushed sandwich. And another item is MP hopeful praises Hitler. This is another Reform Party candidate. Reform is facing fresh embarrassment over its candidates' views after it emerged that one called Adolf Hitler brilliant. Jack Aaron, who is standing against Defense Secretary Grant Shapps in Welwyn Hatfield, praised the Nazis' ability to inspire people to action. He also claimed Syria's Bashar al-Assad was gentle and that Vladimir Putin's use of force in Ukraine was legitimate. And there is a piece, why are so many older British men disappearing to their deaths on Greek islands? And ask their shattered families, why do the local police too often fail to find them? And there is another evil smiling face of the murderess. Let me And Andrew Neil is saying about Nigel Nasty Farage, Reform's crackpot contract has all the rigor of maths done on the back of a Farage fag packet after a 2-bottle lunch. And Nadine Dorries, a Boris Johnson supporter, is saying, I get your anger over the Tories, but voting reform could bring a Starmer dictatorship that goes on forever. There is an item on page, far deep into page 25. Migrants perished after being thrown in the sea by Greek coast guards. It's a massacre by coast guards, massacre of immigrants. The Greek Coast Guard is responsible for the deaths of dozens of migrants in the Mediterranean who were forced to turn back or deliberately thrown overboard. An investigation has found this is not really news. This is happening all the time. There is a Times Section 2 feature that is talking about the David Beckham brand. It's a piece byline to Hillary Rose. So it's saying that affairs, rage, and tears. Is this the true story of the Beckhams? In an explosive new book, Tom Bauer claims to lift the lid on a relationship that over 25 years of marriage has led the couple to build a 455 million brand. Hillary Rose reports. And there are acres of space given to Nigel Farage's promotion in the I paper. This one is Farage's long shadow is eclipsing the Tory party. This is a comment piece by Kitty Donaldson. Nigel Farage is a human eclipse. First, his shadow falls over the right of the political debate. Having caught voters' attention, he attempts to blot out the entire sun. And this Kitty Donaldson, who is described as the chief political commentator for the I newspaper, is beginning to reflect what is emerging. People really writing, admitting that Nigel Farage is a fraud. Nothing in the political coverage of the so-called newspapers, absolutely nothing about accountability. Accountability at local stage, accountability at regional stage, accountability at central stage of the government or the state. And despite the fact that the Sunday Times on Sunday published a rare admission that the Grenfell Tower massacre has been followed by the people responsible for most of the massacre reaping £1 billion profit. Despite that, there is no follow-up in any of the papers about the Grenfell Tower and the looting by the criminals. And I'll come to that. Despite the private lie saying a month ago that Britain is littered with public inquiries, which is absolutely true. There is no evidence that the actual truth of the unfitness for purpose, the corruption at every stage of the state, local, central, regional, is being paid any attention to by any of the parties, or indeed, for that matter, by the political commentators. And that includes the criminality, the corruption of the judiciary, which acted as the rubber stamp of the murderous DEFRA, promoting the agenda of the DEFRA against the innocent baby angel Geronimo. So Grenfell Tower, Stephen Lawrence, Brixton riots, Hillsborough disaster, the post office scandal. These are only a handful of the literally dozens of inquiries that are actually ongoing, or have been staged, but without following up the truth that emerged in the evidence. So despite the fact that the almost one-sided right-wing British newspapers are saying about Starmer that Starmer will be destroying Britain. Despite that, there is no actual connection between that line of propaganda and the truth that the various organs of the UK state are continuing to neglect, to deny, to violate, to suppress universal truth and justice and accountability and transparency. What the baby angel Geronimo has been witnessing in the behavior of the evilness personified DEFRA can be easily extrapolated to cover all and every aspect of the UK state. And that can then be linked to the corruption surrounding the so-called radicalization of the four Tower Hamlets schoolgirls, Shamima Begum, Sharmina Begum, and the other two, who between 2014 and 2015 were reported to have gone to France, to Syria to join the so-called ISIS. That could only happen, as it did happen, with the complicity of the local Tower Hamlets Council, which is still being allowed to remain uncommented on for its illegality, criminality, and criminal complicity and silence about the safeguarding duties owed by the local council to these children. There is not one single word from any candidate at any level about the rights of these girls. And it is impossible to imagine that these children will be the subject of any demand by any of the election-seeking politicos, either from Tower Hamlets or from any other part of the United Kingdom. So it's a bare, bereft election that is set to be held on the 4th of July, 2024, bare and bereft of substance, bereft of any concept of justice and fairness being on the agenda of any of the candidates. We shall be continuing on all of these aspects and issues in the coming editions. This one is 29 minutes long, this video, ending at 8:11 hours GMT on Tuesday, 18th of June 2024.